it became clear that we just have so many professionals who are living in a world where we used to go home and be able to reset. We had that time away from work, and we're just living in a completely fractured time where with work life, it's really hard and you have to create boundaries, and many of us don't know how to create boundaries. And so you're homing from work and working from home and not feeling like you're doing anything well.
Welcome to Seriously Catherine, a podcast about taking your business seriously, but not yourself. All right, y'all, this week's hot take is all about the Grammys. Oh my God. So the most important thing is that there's been rumors or speculation that Taylor Swift was going to announce a new album, but it was going to be the Reputation Taylor's Version album. And no, she has a brand new album. It's called The Tortured Poets Department. Who knows? I'm a little kind of was hoping that there would be another pop album. It sounds like it's going to be more of a, alternative album, whatever. Anything she does, I support fully. So some other things that came up. So she won for Album of the Year for Midnights, which I support. Oh, John Baptiste was there. Tracy Chapman was there. She did a duet with Luke Combs and her song that he also did, which is so great. I mean, if you don't know that song, he's got a fast car. Miley Cyrus won her very first Grammy for Flowers. Listen, Miley Cyrus is in the category of Britney Spears, Madonna. They're crazy. We know they're crazy. We love them for it. And so I'm just really happy that she won a Grammy. Beyonce was there, and Jay-Z and Blue Ivy. Jay-Z was the recipient of the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award, which is amazing. Good for him. He did take that opportunity to point out that Beyonce, although she has the most Grammys ever in history, she's never won Album of the Year. And he's a little hurt about it. And I get it. I get what he's saying, but this year, she didn't put on any new content or any new album. So, it was sort of where is this coming from? And so I get some people are oh my God, why would he take this opportunity to talk shit when she didn't even put out any new material? But when was the last time he had the platform with a mic and to be able to speak it to as many people as he could, for Grammys night? He was literally in front of the very crowd that needed to hear how pissed off he is. Celine Dion was there. This is her first public appearance since being diagnosed with is a neurological disease. I think it's called stiff person's disease. She looked beautiful, and that was awesome for her to be out. Fantasia Barrino did an amazing tribute to Tina Turner. And then Miley Cyrus, I think, was channeling Tina Turner in her outfit when she performed Flowers, and it was so adorable. I don't know if you saw this clip, but go find it if you didn't. It's while Miley Cyrus was performing Flowers, she acknowledged that, oh my God, she just won her first Grammy. Oh, wait, I do have to do a little hot take on Trevor Noah. He was the host, and he did so good. A lot of his little clips and quips are getting a lot of viral attention on social media. And he called out Taylor Swift, but in a way that wasn't being a bully. I love Trevor Noah, and I'm kind of sad, he's not doing The Daily Show anymore. Jon Stewart's back. All right, this week in Saratoga, it's Chowder Fest. It's a great event. It's a wild and exciting event, and there is one person who I believe is owed a great due of admiration and appreciation, and that is Connie Crudo. She works for Discover Saratoga, the Convention and Tourism Bureau in Saratoga Springs, and I'm so thrilled that Saratoga Living After Hours featured her in their email because she is the real MVP, the queen of Chowder Fest, and she has been working for Discover Saratoga, I think since 2008. That was the first year that Chowder Fest was even a thing. And it is all due to her that it has become completely successful. And I remember the first year that I was on the scene in 2012, they did a flash mob on Caroline Street. It was so much fun. She has all these ideas and then she executes them. It's incredible. She has a team of people working with her, but she really is the one that you call if you need anything on that day. She is amazing. So 40,000 people will come to downtown Saratoga Springs on Saturday. With that many people coming to downtown Saratoga, we need a little more resources and infrastructure to help this event run smoothly. So the actual Chowder Fest is from 10 to 4. The shuttles are going to be running from 10 to 5 drive from the casino to downtown. So I implore you to park there and take that shuttle. It's such a fun time. It is incredibly overwhelming, though. There's a lot of people downtown. There's a lot of drinking happening. Back to Connie. She really is such an MVP. She is absolutely the queen of Chowder Fest. There should be a crown, not just for the chowder, but just like for Connie to get a crown every year, because it's so much work. You have to understand she's coordinating all these restaurants, all their insurance documents, their health department waivers, like to participate in this thing. And there's a safety concern. Got to get streets blocked off. I mean, it's a huge collaborative effort. You know, I love collaboration, but she is really at the helm, and we appreciate her so much for doing this and continuing to put on this amazing event for our town. Thank you, Connie, for bringing a giant group of people to come into town this weekend. You're the best. On this week's episode of Seriously Catherine, I'm joined by Meyers. She is an executive coach, speaker, trainer, and a mindset shifter. She is all about positive psychology and helping you live a happier and more fulfilling life. Let's get into it. So when I think of you like as Miss Saratoga. It's my true.
Gosh,
you're so engaged and involved, and you're on boards, and you're just like everywhere. And then you're also on the board of the Y.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us sort of your trajectory. Are you born, raised in Saratoga?
No, I raised in Clifton Park. You know, I had a job at DuPont. I was a chemical engineer designing specialty polymers. How sexy is that? And it led me eventually to Boston, where I absolutely loved Boston. But shortly after moving to Boston, I came home for Christmas. And I fell in love. And then it brought me home. And that was the end of that.
Okay, so your husband is here.
He's here. He grew up in Albany. But when I met him, he was already living in Saratoga.
Okay.
It's funny you say Miss Saratoga. At the time, his office, so we have a family business, Meyers & Meyers. It's been over 50 years, but based in Albany. And he lived in Saratoga, but he didn't know anybody in Saratoga. It was kind of funny. So when I moved in with him, we really didn't know anyone, but he loves being out. You know, he grew up in a family where his dad was a politician, and it was a small business. So you had to bring in the business. You had to be out. You had to be chatting with people. And this life was so new to me, like being out all the time at night, knowing people in my neighborhood. I grew up in the suburbs. My parents didn't hang out with people in their neighborhood, but I loved it. It was me. I'm very social. We were out and about all the time until we had kids. And then we had to have, I said, David, we can't be out 7 nights a week. And that's when we started our date night, because we said going out is so important to us, like being social, knowing the people within our community. And so we made a commitment. Every Wednesday night, we're going to go out. We have almost never missed a Wednesday or Thursday. That go back and forth. And eventually we're like, we love this so much, we're going to add Saturday to it.
Nice.
And believe it or not, we still have the same Saturday babysitter that we had when our son was 8 weeks old.
Wow,
She's
that's
been
awesome.
With us for close to 15 years.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I picture like you. Do you run your house like a well-oiled machine? Anybody coming in, sort of like everything's set up for success, and you just like they just like follow the rules, follow direction.
It's funny. This is where the perception of me gets a little funny. I am a disaster in terms of like house organization. Let's say that. Yes,
this is so hard to believe.
But parental discipline, I'm pretty good at.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really hit a point, I think it was between child 3 and 4, that I wanted to start doing things for myself, like going back to work and, getting involved in the community. And I just couldn't do it all. And that's totally what fell by the wayside. And my husband's so organized that it drives him crazy. But I always tell him, when the kids are old enough and like they can contribute, and now they're starting to contribute. So the house is slowly getting back to like a halfway decent, but that's what gets dropped by the wayside with me for sure.
Yeah. I mean, something drops. Mm-hmm. And if you're really good and sort of like okay with asking for help and having someone who's expert is that to come in and help you, it's such a game changer.
Totally. But in terms of, there are a few things that were like not negotiables. Like number one, sleep. Sleep is so important to me, and I am terrible without enough sleep. So we've been crazy about the kids, their schedules and everything, every single one of them. And so that has, been super important. And then just, I really feel like this day and age where we're scared to tell our kids no and like create boundaries, which they're craving. Yeah. And, my kids respond really well to boundaries. And especially, I always say my oldest is neurodivergent. He was diagnosed early, on the spectrum and with ADHD. And I don't know, it's a chicken and an egg thing. I think if we didn't have that schedule organization, it would have been so difficult with him. And on the other hand, I think he's thriving because we did, and he also set the stage with making that part of our lives.
Yeah. So it's not like the other kids don't ever know any different.
Right. They don't know any different.
Yeah.
They know it's, 9:00, it's time for bed. A sitter has never had an issue putting them to bed, ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my sitters don't have problems putting my kids to bed. I do.
Right.
It's like every night is just an absolute negotiation strategy.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just always and I have to set myself up for it. So it's okay, I'm going to be able to do this.
Yes.
And
I think it's just that I have zero. My mom used to use this phrase with me. She used to say, 7:00, Allie, it's my favorite time of day. Okay. And she said, you'll understand someday. And I swear when my kids were little, when it was 7:00 and they were babies and it was bedtime, I was done. I was out of bandwidth.
Yeah.
And that's the way I am. It's okay, out of my room, get to bed. I'm done. I can't give you any more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm figuring it out. I mean, and I have these little babies. I mean, Posey's the oldest. She's 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Ruby 6 and Zia's 4. And Zia and Ruby share a room. So they feed off of each other.
That's
and
tough. Yeah.
It's tough. Okay. And it's all boys.
All boys.
All boys.
Yes.
So tell us, you were, I guess, a chemist? What was your...
Chemical engineer.
Yes. And what sort of, did you take a step back when you had kids?
Yes. Oh, I've done many different types of things. And it's funny. I used to be so paranoid about, changing my identity. Well, I'm doing this today. Well, I'm doing this tomorrow. But I really feel like I'm at a point in my life that I'm I don't care. Every single thing I did had a component, which was a stepping stone to where I am today. Everything. Even if at first glance, it doesn't even seem remotely related. But yes, I studied chemical engineering in school. You're not super limited, but I didn't want to be in a lab. I didn't want to be in a manufacturing facility. So I went into sales, and that was great. At that point, I was just moving back to the area, and I started a business at the time where I spoke to women about wardrobing, confidence, wardrobe through confidence. I did some personal shopping and things like that, but I did a lot of speaking, and I loved the speaking. I didn't love the fact that I had people who thought their fashion emergency was the worst problem in the world, and I was the one who was called on for that. So when I started having kids, shortly after, my oldest was diagnosed with some learning challenges. And, we just had several years where it was a lot of work at home, just navigating that whole special ed process and giving him what he needed at home.
Right.
And of course, me, you'd think I know better, but then I'm continuing to have babies on top of that, which I always wanted. Yeah. And so, I was home-based for a while, then started kind of getting back into community things. I worked for a few years helping my husband build his immigration blog. He's an immigration attorney.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So just helping where I could. When you have a family-owned business, I have some knowledge that I can help contribute in terms of setting up, social media and the blog and everything. So I did that for a few years because this is my personality. If I'm home with my kids, I have to be doing something that's challenging my mind. Yeah. I really have to. That's me. And then at the time, I actually started a style blog. Again, I love the whole style thing, but it's not what I want to do with my life,
Yeah. Did you feel like you wanted to have a bigger impact or more fulfilling sort of?
Well, the style thing was taking a passion of mine, right? And I was really loving the writing component, which I didn't really get a chance to do in an engineering school.
Yeah.
But most of all, I think I had about a 10-year period. So it was probably 2005 to 2015, where I feel like the world of technology was growing leaps and bounds above my capacity. But of course, that wasn't the case. I was just so disconnected from what people were learning, what a blog was, and all that. So I used this as a way to kind of learn these skills that I knew I wanted to learn, and then I knew I would enjoy doing. So I did that more as, just a hobby. And then I started The Scoop. So I started The Scoop, which was a local blog that was dedicated to highlighting local businesses. That's the way we started. And I had the initial idea to start The Scoop in a little bit of a different business model. But then COVID came and I had to shift that business model. So what I ended up doing was making cold calls to businesses. It was kind of funny. Kids are, in cribs downstairs, the beginning of COVID, and I'm making cold calls to businesses saying, hey, I have this idea. I want to highlight small businesses, but they probably don't have the money to invest.
Right.
Would you partner with me and sponsor me in doing this. And they're like, well, how many followers do you have? I'm like, well, I have none, but I have an idea and I have a lot of drive.
Yeah.
So that was a really awesome experience. It gave me the opportunity to team up with some great local businesses like Ruin and Adirondack Trust and, get to know a lot of people within the business community here.
Right.
Again, it completely forced me to learn things like basic video and, a little bit more about the technology and Canva and all that stuff, which I, again, loved doing.
Yeah. And you're kind of like, like you blew up during COVID. You were like everywhere as far as I was concerned. It was like every business was having you spotlight them. And it was huge.
I think everyone was looking for a way to share what they had in their shop that people couldn't visit. And I was happy to do that for them. But that was a huge nobody except for the people who live in your own home understand, because I committed by contract, to not only doing things for the businesses who were sponsoring me, but to be pumping out video content, person of one, and every week. So I did the video, I did the setting up of the call, I did the writing, I did the editing, I did the posting, I did the social media. And it was a lot when all those kids were home.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So as I did that, and I so enjoyed doing that, I knew it wasn't forever, but it was such a great experience to kind of help the community in that way. And, at the time I was at this point now on the board of the Y. And, I just always been pulled to kind of the whole world of human flourishing, the science of happiness, everything around that, personal growth. And I just saw a bigger and bigger need. I didn't want to go back to school. So I just did a lot of research, like what could I do to contribute to this problem? How could I do it in a way that utilizes my skills? And so that's when, I found this one program that merged together executive coaching with positive psychology, which is really the study of human flourishing. And I went back, I took a year and just immersed myself in kind of learning everything there is to know, about, ways that we can stay mentally strong, especially with so much going on around us with technology. And in COVID, it was tough, with all the boys being home. I was in over my head with what I'd commit to. I had my board stuff. And then we had other things. Both of my husband's parents died in COVID. Mm-hmm. My dad ended up being diagnosed with cancer. He ended up passing as well. I like to say it was, somebody was leading me to this deep, dark place that I just was fighting against. And so I was doing whatever I could. And these things that were working so well for me, I knew could work for other people too. So I wanted to get the certification and credibility to be able to share these things with others.
Yes.
So it was all these things kind of came together.
Yeah, culmination. And it's the same for me. Like all these things you don't realize you're gonna be able to transfer those skills to a later version of yourself and apply them.
100%. I remember starting on this one year curriculum and saying, well, what if I get in the middle of this and I don't want to use it? And I'm like, these are skills that I need in life. And I remember thinking, like, what if somebody dies who's close to me? How will I've never had a parent die. And I was like, there will be a use for these skills. And when I tell you there was a use for these skills, I'm so disciplined, so regimented in my practices. And it really got me through some tough times.
Yeah. So tell us more about like what those practices are. And are these things that you learned through that curriculum? Or I'd imagine you were doing a lot of this stuff already.
Bits and pieces. I always say this in my workshops, I often feel that when you understand the science behind some of these things, you're more apt to try them and stick with them until you feel the benefit that comes with them.
Yeah.
But as I started going through this coaching program, the one-on-one executive coaching at this point in my life was not attractive to me. But what I always loved the speaking. I love content creation using my brand. So, I love style in general, but this was the way I could infuse style through attractive content that made a difference in people's lives, hopefully. Yeah. The more and more I was working my way through the coaching program and, they say, where do you want a niche? I'm like, I don't know where I want a niche. Like, it became clear that we just have so many professionals who are living in a world where we used to go home and like be able to reset. We had that time away from work and we're just living in a completely fractured time where with work life, it's really hard and you have to create boundaries. And many of us don't know how to create boundaries. And so you're homing from work and working from home and not feeling like you're doing anything well. That in addition just, to all of the distractions and notifications, we are so not present. And there is this one slide I share in my workshop, and it's from the 2019 World Happiness Report. And this one researcher predicted, like, we're going into a pretty dark place. Like, people are very unfulfilled. And then the pandemic came, and it's like, why are we so unfulfilled? Well, because we're not intentional. We're just leading life on autopilot. Yeah. And so what are those things that we can be doing to focus on the things that, what I say, build a resilience cushion, prepare us for life's inevitable unknowns and those micro stressors that are coming at us all the time.
Right. And I think too, I remember when I first started, well, even when I opened Paint and Sip, it was like such a radical idea to open up this paint studio. And when I would tell people about like, well, why, like, it was like, why are you doing this? You're not an artist, and I'm like, cause it's going to be fun and I will enjoy it.
Yes.
And like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out and I'll try something new. So some people, when I tell them all the things that I'm doing, right? Like I have Paint and Sip, I have palette, I have 3 kids, my husband travels for work, so I am like on home life, like, basically by myself during the week, and their eyes just get bigger and bigger. And it's like, it's not radical to do all these things simultaneously, and it's like, again, like I said earlier, as long as you can put your ego aside, ask for help, be humble, and get the support you need to advance all of them, it is possible.
Yeah.
But accountability is huge. And, there are times when I feel like I fall off the accountability wagon where I'm just like, I throw my hands in the air. I'm like, you know what? I'm in just survival mode.
Yeah.
But when you're like, even just a couple, like, so last week was a rough week for me. I mean, it was like a triple whammy of just bad news. And I immediately was like, you know what? I need to start listening to these meditations again. And they're like, it's an insight path meditation. And you do it at night. It's like 60 minutes. And I'm sure you know all about this, but it's like theta waves or
binaural waves.
Yeah. And then like undertone of that or like affirmations. I mean, it's simple stuff like you're going to be okay, but I'm like, I recognized in one night, the next day I woke up and I felt like hopeful again, and it's just like these things do work. It's not woo-woo. And I kind of like love someone like you leaning into it and talking more about it because you are so well respected in the professional community, right? Like a local community, but professionally, you mean business. So when you're talking about impact of your mental health and the positive psychology and just being happy and how important that is, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I so appreciate you saying that because one of my main goals with this business, which is primarily doing workshops for organizations and for teams, is to show these professionals what you feel may be woo-woo has been scientifically proven over and over again. And I'm very careful with the way I present it, because you can completely lose credibility right out of the gate. Or if it's presented in the right way, you can get their buy-in to at least give it a go.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, things like that, the meditation you're doing, carving out quiet. One of the biggest concerns I have for my kids' generation, and really it's for us as well, is we don't have those moments of solitude anymore. You feel slightly uncomfortable and you grab your phone and scroll because it's been scientifically proven that when we're feeling stressed about something or uneasy, that is, appeasing something in us biologically. And if you're not intentional about carving out, and kudos to you for the 60-minute meditation, but I tell people to start at 3 minutes. Create something that's a routine where you have just a few mindful moments free of technology, because it's in those quiet moments that sometimes the best solutions to your problems you can see.
Yeah. I've always been sort of an old soul. Like I enjoy spending time with older people. I have great relationships with older people who have been mentors to me. And I used to always sort of like, and I still to this day think this, it's like, you shouldn't have to get old to have wisdom to like be a happier person, right? Like how can we get there faster?
Oh, 100%.
Is it spending time with older people? Is it just share? I believe it's just shared experiences, like sharing stories and shared experiences and wisdom and passing it down and sharing.
Well, I'm a firm believer in one of the things that I, talk about. The program that I do, that my framework, it includes 5 building blocks of happiness and resilience. One of them being evoking the positive. And, we can spend all day in the negative place in our brain if we allow it, or we can purposefully set our intentions and our attention, right, to the things that are going well. And it's so easy, not only because of the world around us and the negative news, and there's something called a negativity bias. We remember more of the negative. Mm-hmm. You have to focus on the positive, and you need to make it a practice, whether it's like every night before bed. And I started this because literally it's part of my planner system. What was your win today? Just making sure that you are focusing on that, because if not, you're just going to be going on to the next thing that didn't go well, and you're going to be absolutely overcome with all the things that you're not doing well,
Yeah.
and I think it's really important either whether it's through a little win, celebrating the wins every day, or through a short gratitude practice, just a couple minutes a day, to really start shifting your mindset and focusing on all these awesome things that are going on.
Yeah.
And you're so much less likely to be pulled under when the things don't go as planned, because they very often don't, as we know.
Yeah, I'm sort of like on both sides of it. I just feel like I was brought up to just be a realist, like life sucks sometimes. Life's hard and you just kind of gotta like go with it. And then there's this other side of me I recently, like one of my really good friends, I'm kind of going all over the place right here, but I'm also a worst case scenario person where I'm like, okay, plan for the worst thing. Like, what is the worst thing that could happen?
Sure.
And hope for the best, right? And then when things do go well, you're pleasantly surprised and a little maybe, starstruck by it. But I have a friend who doesn't ever think of the worst thing. She's like, why would you even think about that? Why would you even put that thought into your brain for it to percolate? So she doesn't even think about it.
I need to interject here. So one of the exercises that I share with my students is something that was founded in the field of positive psychology by Dr. Gabrielle Oettingen, I think is her name, but she is like an expert in goal realization. And she feels strongly that we don't just visualize a positive outcome. We must visualize the obstacles that are coming along the way, not only because we're better prepared for when we get to that obstacle, but it just inherently gives us more confidence to go for it, because we're like, we got this. If this happens, I got this. So chances are, if somebody's never looking at any of the obstacles, as soon as an obstacle comes, they're more likely to get sidetracked or to give up.
Or just not start to begin with.
Or not start, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, because that is too scary to them.
So I have so many questions. Like, do you do vision boarding or?
I don't personally do vision boarding, but there are also a lot of great visualization meditations where you really are trying to kind of embody the situation that you want to be in. I remember when I took on the capital campaign for the Y, and we just are pretty much wrapping that up now. And that was one of the biggest challenges of my life. And I'm so glad I did it, but it was really, really hard to do, getting out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But what I had to do was really visualize the people who would be using this space, and the people who would never have access. One thing about the Y, whether you know this or not, is we believe that everyone should have access to wellness, regardless of your ability to pay. So I always focus on that, when I'm thinking of the hard work I'm doing. Well, these are the people who are going to benefit. The whole community benefits, but that's what drives me. So a few weeks back, I have been in the new space several times, which is here in Saratoga. But when I was in it, it hadn't yet been kind of full of people yet. And then a few weeks back, it was like a holiday weekend or something. And I walked in and it was packed. And it brought me to tears. And I'm like, this is what I envisioned. And I'm so happy right now. But you got to stop and really take it in, you know?
I mean, and then what happens next, right? So you and I have both built things out of nothing. I mean, that's a huge part of I think about that all the time. Paint and Sip didn't exist before I brought it here. And now there's multiple locations in the area. People know what it is. And it's the same with Palette. There was nothing and then there was Palette, and there was this beautiful Y that existed. But now there's this whole extra wing and there's so many more services and stuff. So how do you sort of deal with what happens after? Do you have the sense you have to keep one-upping your goals? Or
I think if you are in the practice of celebrating your wins, you're not so much likely to be kicking that goalpost and trying to get the next and the next. Yes, I mean, even while I was going through that campaign, or no matter what business venture I was into at the moment, I always have 1,000 ideas of what else I want to do.
Yeah.
So what I find, at least with myself, is as something's kind of rolling out, I'm already rolling up that next thing, whatever is important to me at the moment. And there's definitely not a lack of those things. I wouldn't say it's because I'm constantly trying to kind of one up myself. It's just I always want to be moving and growing and learning. I took the VIA strengths analysis, which is in positive psychology, they feel that to be a happy human, you always must be using your strengths instead of really working on your weaknesses. You got to really lean into your strengths.
Yeah.
And so I took this analysis, and I mean, my number one was love of learning. And I think no matter what I'm doing, it's as soon as I know I'm making that commitment, I am all in. And that's just always the way. But I get so much joy inherently out of the learning that even if something didn't work out, I would be okay, because now I have so much more to make that next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just a good student, like I've heard that too. Like, you're such a good student and I'd like to be coached and I like to be
Yes.
held accountable. I think sometimes we find in leaders that, they're know-it-alls or they have these big egos and it's like they have all the answers. And I just think the leaders that I find inspiration and admiration from are people who are willing to listen and, sort of like that servant leadership type of style.
And they're continuously learning, right? I mean, nobody got to where, I think we're in this world of social media, you're so likely, especially when you're starting a business or starting something new, to be comparing yourself to somebody who is doing something in your world, but they're at a different place. Well, they went through so much to get to where they are. And like, with social media being the highlights of everyone's life, we're just not, we're not reminding people of that.
Right.
There a lot of stuff went into that.
Yeah, I sometimes say like I work really hard to make it look easy, and sometimes that's a disservice to people because they don't recognize like what actions am I taking on a daily basis to show up the way that I do. So it's just like we're all human and we're trying the best that we can.
I give the perception, right, that I have it all together, but nobody does, absolutely nobody does. And, my husband and I have this funny thing. He's like, you're such a fraud. Everyone thinks you have it together. He's like, look at this place,
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You have to come clean.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone, you've been doing like a lot of I feel like you've been doing a lot of speaking engagements and traveling and going to, I'm assuming like corporations and doing like leadership training or with their executive teams, or tell us more about that and how people might want to like engage with you.
Yeah. So the workshops that I've put together help, lower stress and burnout and increase resilience and well-being. And I think what I offer organizations is this way of introducing the subject of mental strength in a very non-threatening way. Unfortunately, there's still a little bit of a stigma around mental health. So it's doing, leadership trainings. The other day, I was speaking to a group of human resource professionals and emerging leaders. They had come to me saying, our emerging leaders are in an unprecedented place where there's so much on their shoulders. How can we support them in what they're facing? And so they brought me in to do this workshop. But I do workshops for organizations. I do keynote speeches at conferences, which share these 5 fundamental building blocks and some science behind how they work. And yeah, I'm excited just to keep on moving because I feel that, this is the perfect place in my life where I'm able to perfectly meld my skills with something I feel so strongly about. And that is just feels so good, to have that combination of things.
Yeah. And it's just, you've reaped the rewards of doing all this for yourself and for your family. And like, why wouldn't you want to share that with as many people as you possibly can and get paid for it?
Exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah. And, and I know that there's a need. I know there's a need from the leadership level and from the employee level. I just put together my first of what I'm hoping probably in this quarter, I'm going to be releasing a library of very short meditations for the busy working professional that really target very specific issues in the workplace. Maybe you're feeling tension in your body. Maybe you have like a toxic workplace situation with another individual. So things that target that, give employees kind of that easy bridge to learning meditation and seeing how doable it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be 60 minutes. And
it doesn't have to be 60 minutes.
The only reason I do that 60-minute one is like, because it's at night and I probably fall asleep in the first 10 minutes.
Right.
But I'm thinking, well, what I believe is happening is that these thoughts are still entering my brain.
Yeah. And there's probably some science behind that, but I kind of start them a little bit
baby steps.
More elementary. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, this was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And
this was so great.
I mean, I do admire you. You're an inspiration. You're a role model.
So are you. And I love how you have taken and run with, Marie Forleo uses the term multi-passionate entrepreneur.
Yes.
I think we're at a place in history where we don't need a label of only one thing. Like if you want to do all these different things, just go do them.
So if somebody wants to connect with you, where is the best? Are you LinkedIn, I would assume?
Yeah, I'm active on LinkedIn under Allie Meyers. It might be under Allie Meyers Training. I'm not sure. Instagram, Allie Meyers, and AllisonMyers.com shows you a list of services and also links to all my socials.
So this week's FaceTime Mom moment was a tough one. Okay, so y'all know I was out of town without my kids again to ride in a Mardi Gras parade, and my best friend's mom passed away, so I had a funeral to go to, and I missed out on ski lessons yesterday. Luckily, I have an awesome husband, and he's a great dad, and he did lots of video, so I felt like I wasn't missing out. But when I got home last night and I asked them how they did, Ruby was so excited because she's been working on these J turns, and you can't go to the bunny hill until you master or perfect these J turns at least so many times. So the time not this past Sunday, but Sunday before that, when I was there, I was like being like one of those sideline moms who was like really frustrated because they weren't letting her advance with the other kids, and she kept on getting kind of like mixed in the group, and she was like upset. So she kept on like signing to me like, it's time for me to go over to the bunny hill. And I'm like, you got to speak up, girlfriend. You got to use your voice. So when we got her in the car, she's like, I don't understand why they're not letting me go over to the bunny hill. And I was like, you got to speak up for yourself, like let the coach know that you are ready to go down that bunny hill, damn it. And so she's like, okay, next weekend I'm going to practice. And I was sort of bummed, like I'm not going to be there to witness this. I'm pretty competitive. So I was feeling a little like, okay, she's good. Like move her on, advance the child already. Cause she's got her little sister Zia like right on her heels. Cause Zia is actually really, really good at it so far. It's only like her third time being on skis, which she's very, very good. Anyway, I get home last night and I'm like, how did we do? What did we do? Did y'all have fun? And Ruby's like, Mom, I got to go down the bunny hill. She was so excited. And then Mark's like, Katie, she actually cried when they gave her like little vests, because they all get like these like cute jersey red vests to go down the bunny hill so you can separate the ones that are advancing and the ones that are not there yet. And Mark said she started to tear up. She was so overwhelmed and proud that she got to advance. And I, in that moment, was like happy for her, but also feeling like the mom guilt because I wasn't there to witness it myself, and that sucks. That sucks, that feeling when you're like, oh, I wasn't there for that. But the reality of the matter is like I'm raising these strong, independent girls. Their mom is not always going to be there, right? Like, I'm not going to last forever as much as I would love to. And it's important to me that they can stand on their own 2 feet and have these experiences without me eventually, right? So why not start now? That's my facepalm mom moment. It's kind of a sad one, but, I think mom guilt is real and we all feel it. And, sometimes I think it can hold you back. It can hold you back from doing the things that you really want to do or that you feel like you need to be present for out of fear that you're going to miss out on something else that your kids are doing. So I think it's important to share these stories. I got it. You got it. We all got it. But if it makes you feel a little less isolated, and alone, that, you're not doing it all, I am here for you to make you feel a little more supported. All right, moms and dads, I got a parenting hack for you, and it's called the Hoffman Car Wash. If you are a member of the Unlimited Car Wash Club, you're in for a real treat because you can go for free, essentially, if you're paying the monthly fee. I don't know if we're doing any girl math or mom math here, but you pay the fee and you can go get a car wash as many times as you want. And it's one of those things that's like a multifaceted experience. If I'm with the kids, they love to ask the car guy, like if he can draw a little design on the window. They always play ball. They always do something fun. And then we go on through the car wash, and it's almost like this thing comes over my kids, like they're not psychopaths when we leave the car wash. It's like some sense of like therapy for them. Also, form of therapy when I am by myself and I need to go to the car wash because it's the only place I can scream out loud with no judgment. So if you are not already a member of the Unlimited Car Wash Club at Hoffman, you are missing out on a treat. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you want to connect with me, slide into my DMs on Instagram. My handle is Catherine Hover.